Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order, so if you could take your seats, please. Thank you for that. This is the General Government Committee meeting of September 3rd, 2025. And may we have a roll call, please?
Certainly. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Councilmember Dennehy.
Here.
Maloney.
There.
Smisher. Here. Stein. Here. Tracy.
Here.
Worthington.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Here.
Mayor Troutman.
Here.
Thank you for that. This evening, we are discussing the proposed excise tax ordinance. And City Administrator Stevens, you've got, we do have several people turning in requests to speak. We'll get to them in order.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. Tonight we're discussing the ordinance that will work in conjunction with the ballot language for the excise tax on ticket sales for amusement and scenic rides, attractions, and recreational excursions. As many of you know, this issue has gone to the ballots and voters many times over the pool issue has gone to the voters many times over the last 25 years. And last year, the voters approved a 0.3% sales tax for the construction of the pool, and they approved the recreation district to take out debt to build the pool. However, the mill levy to fund operations was turned down. There was a lot of feedback after last year's election, and the voters asked for another means to consider funding the operations other than property tax and other than an additional sales tax. So that's where the genesis of this idea came from, where we would look at levying an excise tax that would not be on general sales or general goods for the purpose of sales tax, and it is not a mill levy. It's not going to be assessed on property tax. This ordinance provides the definitions and the mechanics of how this tax will work, assuming that the ballot measure passes in November. It provides definitions of various terms, including amusement rides, attraction, recreational excursions, and scenic ride. The ordinance also outlines who is responsible for excise tax collection and includes provisions for audits similar to what would be required for sales tax collectors. The ordinance also outlines how the funds shall be used, with the primary purpose of the funds going towards the pool operations via an intergovernmental agreement between the city and the recreation district. And then any additional revenues that does not go to the pool operations shall be deposited into a new capital reserve account for the purpose of community amenities. An example of that would be the future build outs of something like the Black Hills Clark Station property. The ballot language ordinance is written in a way that will include the Royal Gorge Bridge activities if it were annexed into the city. And the city is currently having discussions regarding a path to annexation. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine Sellers, the city attorney. I know she has some additional information and probably some questions for council as well.
Thank you.
Good evening. So I wanted to follow up a little bit. Last time we discussed this very, very briefly at the last, I guess not the last council meeting, the one before. We talked a lot about, what operate could mean, in terms of businesses who may not be located in the city, but who perform some of the services that are subject to tax in the city. And after that conversation, I wanted to look further into that issue, and we're still in the process of doing that. It's a rather complex area of the law involving the Federal Commerce Clause. And I think tonight I want to focus on two things. One would be if the tax applies to those entities outside the city that come in and perform some of those services in the city, what is the term operation? How should that be defined if that's the direction council wants to go? And if for some reason it turns out that that tax could not apply, or the city decides not to apply it to those businesses that are outside the city that perform those services inside the city, how should we be adjusting the ordinance to address that issue. Do we need definitional changes? And we haven't had the opportunity to really dig into this ordinance yet. It's in pretty rough draft form, I would say, at this point. We've talked about it with Ryan, but we haven't had a chance to discuss it with you in depth. And so tonight, I think I'm looking for direction in those two areas. And of course, anything else council wants to give direction on regarding the ordinance. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. I think that the council will be weighing in on that, and I do know that we have a pretty full house here compared to most nights, and I think that we have some people that would like to talk to us about that. But first, does council have any thoughts that they would like to share? And so it's hands. I don't have the little blue box tonight. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I have a couple of questions I think that are probably best directed to our city administrator. Thanks so much for clearly outlining that, this was constructed in such a way that it would include the bridge if and when the bridge is annexed into the city. Given that the city owns the bridge and that, we currently have an RFP on the streets that we'll be renegotiating later this year, is there a way for us to think about how the bridge might be able to start paying something along the lines of the 2.25% even before an annexation?
Yeah, I think there would be a way in the new contract, and I think that, as far as whether or not you could get the existing operator to come on board, that would have to be a change to the contract, but there is only approximately a year left, 13 months left in the existing contract.
Thank you. I think that's helpful, and I think I certainly can't speak for the rest of council, but I think it does it would demonstrate the city's commitment to this being about tourist attractions in the region. I do have one additional, unless.
Sure.
So I was also wondering, I know that there's that this excise tax doesn't have a sunset date, so it was necessary to write the idea of where excess funds would go kind of broadly to ensure that our residents who will have the opportunity to vote on it in November know that excess would be going to community capital amenities. However, I think one of the community capital amenities that is directly on the horizon and would also have a direct financial benefit to some of the industries that are most heavily impacted would be the Clark Station property, the Western Gateway Plaza, or whatever it ends up being called, and specifically a private and commercial boat ramp. Is there a way, either by council resolution or something, that we could indicate what our prioritization of community capital amenities might be?
Yeah, I think it'd probably have to be by resolution. I don't know if Catherine has another suggestion on that, but there would have to be a resolution setting up the fund, and I don't know if that would be the time to do it or a separate resolution, but I think that would probably be the vehicle to do it, unless Catherine has another suggestion.
No, I think a resolution is the vehicle. In addition to that, you could also add language to this ordinance that requires council to pass a resolution prioritizing projects that the tax would go to.
Thanks, Catherine. I think that's really helpful. Also thinking about how do you codify it in such a way that it kind of gives us a roadmap for, say, the next 3 to 5 years without hamstringing, where the city may be 50 years from now. Just having the pleasure of serving on the selection committee for the Clark Station property design, it is really exciting to think about it being really a destination for folks to come and have enough to do to spend a full day there. And I think that immediately plays into the idea of creating not just wonderful amenities for our locals, but also additional things for folks who are visiting our community to do. So I think it would have some really nice synergy, both in terms of additional amenities related to rafting on the river, as well as an additional tourist draw. Thanks.
If I may, and then I'll call on you, council member, but the request tonight is for discussion and direction. And are we looking at a time frame that this needs to be done by?
I think we'd like to have it done before the election.
So
Absolutely.
there's other than promoting transparency, there's not a legal or statutory deadline involved here.
No, I think it's really so the voters know what they're voting on.
Okay, great. Kathy.
Taking it back a notch, talking about the excess funds, I think I immediately come to the point of what are we going to consider excess funds? Because it's operating costs per year are going to be needed year after year after year. So when do we, I know it's going to take a year or two to kind of get the idea of what the real operating costs are going to be, but I think we need to have a clue as to when that point comes so that the general public feels comfortable about the excess funds, so we don't come down the line and wonder, we don't have enough operating funds.
Yeah, and that's something that is being worked out through the IGA with the recreation districts, what those operation costs are and, the reserves for operations, and then, excess funds would be defined after that.
And so, yes, sir, Jerry.
Can the IGA be amended once we have a handle on what the operating costs are going to be? Is that what you're saying?
IGAs can be amended. This IGA would not be, the ballot language authorizes the city to enter into this long-term IGA with the rec district. So the city wouldn't actually enter into the IGA until after the vote on the ballot measure.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have some idea of what the shape or the boundaries might be on what might be considered an operating fund reserve? I mean, part of the idea here, as I understand it, is that the city is interested in making sure that there are operating funds available if there were some decreased funds available or something along those lines. Do I have some idea where those what the shape of those boundaries might be?
I think that's still being negotiated between the city and the
So,
recreation
under
district.
negotiation
Yes.
right now. Okay. Yes.
I do have a question, and maybe this will come down the road. As far as who is going to get taxed on this, because this has been approached to me twice in the past week. Just, we're saying recreation, but we're excluding some of the different recreational people in our town. And I see what they're saying, bowling's recreational, movie theater's recreational, golf is recreational, but we've excluded all those. And I think we really need to take a look at that instead of just, if we're saying recreation, I think we really need to take a peek at all our recreation places and that. And just, it's come up to me twice this past week, people asking.
So could Catherine speak to that? How we would define, is there a codified way to define what those businesses would be, Catherine?
But no, I mean, that's what we would do in the ordinance. We would have to come up with that definition of what the council wants to include. If it's additional, like right now it's recreational excursions. So as Councilmember Dennehy pointed out, that doesn't include all recreation within the city. So we would need to modify that if that's what council's desire was, to include any type of, recreational activity. I know I'm using the word to define the word, but we'd need to come up with something.
Just one comment, because this came as a surprise to me. The bowling alley is not actually in city limits. Me neither. But the other two, I think it is really important that we have, like, we on council at least have to have, and the public has to have, a common understanding of what amusement, ride, attraction, recreational, excursion, and scenic ride. These are section 315.020 definitions. Like, we have to, and the general public has to be able to read that and understand whether or not a business falls into one of those. And I think that there's enough confusion as to whether a certain business would or wouldn't fall into one of those definitions that I think we probably need to understand from our city attorney what the intent is behind each of these definitions and what businesses would currently, based on that intent, fall within them. And then I think we could have a more realistic conversation about, is that what council's intent is? And how do we write it like as plain language as humanly possible so that there is no room for interpretation? Because going back to Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick's initial question, like, people need to know what they're voting on well as far in advance of the election as possible. Thanks.
So, and I agree. I think it's a little vague as to what all that would be. I think we need to get more in depth to talking about those definitions. It'd be clear to me, I mean, just recreation rides, I think it needs to be a little fatter than all that, and I think that would be appropriate. So that's, in reading over this, which I've done several times, I would like to see that as well.
I know oftentimes in writing rules or code or legislation that it's hard sometimes to think far enough ahead to be able to, list out everything that you would like to. And so for that reason, a lot of times there's language about, including but not limited to. And so it's really up to council, I think, to give the direction that we need to our staff and to our attorneys as to how prescriptive we want to be in those sections, because it's a fair point that we want people to know what the proposal is, and not have it too loosey-goosey where, today it's one thing and tomorrow it could be something else type thinking.
Just if we miss this election, can we go on and have a special election for this? Or I just don't feel comfortable that we would possibly have this hammered out to where we would like it and the attorneys would like it to get it on the ballot. Don't we have a certain period of time that we have to have that clear language for the ballot?
The ballot language has already been approved by council. The ballot language will be on the ballot. This is the part that fleshes out the ballot language, because you can't put that much detail into the ballot because it.
So for the audience, this ordinance, so we have it on the ballot that says we can do this. And then this ordinance would flush out what and how it would be collected and who's going to pay it and everything else. So the people would say yea or nay that we could do an excise tax. And then the next step is to have an ordinance that would be comfortable for us to do the collection. So there's just permission that we can do it, and actually, or not do it, but it would still be if it's passed by the people. Okay?
That's correct.
So,
it's a vote of the people.
Does everybody understand that? I see blank stares. So what we're working, and so, and even an ordinance can be amended and changed as well. Correct?
I'm sorry. Councilmember Worthington was asking me a question. I missed your question.
Well,
Mr.
Kathy, so even an ordinance that we would approve that hopefully would fit the bill what we're after could be amended in the future by something with another ordinance, or how do you do that? You know what I mean? If we were to pass it and it's like, oh, that's not really working, or we don't like the way that's worked, we can go back in with an ordinance of change and reissue it and take in or out certain topics on it.
Council would have to go through the same process that we do for all of our ordinances, go
Okay.
into a committee meeting, and then, 2 readings of the ordinance. Catherine, is there anything else that would need to be done since it's a sales or a excise tax issue, a Tabor issue?
Yeah, so it's not that straightforward. So I'm going to speak in big generalities here. So under Tabor, you cannot change a tax policy without going to a vote of the people. So let's say you had a sales tax and it didn't apply to a certain item, and the city came in and passed an ordinance that said, oh, now it applies to that item. That potentially violates Tabor. So the ordinance could definitely become more restrictive and apply to less people and allow certain businesses not to be subject to the excise tax. But if you try to add additional businesses that are considered a tax policy change, then you would need to go to a vote of the people. So it's a little nuanced in there. It's not a typical ordinance amendment.
Okay.
So you could make it as broad as can be and withdraw certain things you can add into.
You couldn't add in things that wouldn't be covered by the tax when the ballot issue is passed and the implementing ordinance, which is what this is, goes into effect. It's not that a bright line rule, because there might be something that, you're interpreting something that would have been included, you could argue. But if you're suddenly saying, okay, now taxis are included, and there's an argument to be made that taxis are not amusement rides, they're not recreational excursions, they don't fit within these definitions, they're not a like thing, that's a tax policy change that requires a vote of the people.
Okay, how about Uber? No, I'm just kidding.
I consider that a taxi for now.
Yes.
I keep thinking about what the general public thinks about, and I'm thinking, we keep banding about the word excise tax. And I think in this case, everybody is worrying about who's going to pay that excise tax. And I think the way a lot of our discussion is it's not on the companies that are going to be collecting the excise tax. That tax will be applied to those that are using the facilities, the operations, anything that way. So in other words, it's probably going to be added to a ticket. So what we're trying to do, I'm going to be very honest, we're trying to get to the tourism. We're trying to get to the people that come, spend their money, and then leave, rather than put the burden on us as taxpayers within our own area. So we're trying to be as open and as free as we can to try and get the means, the money that is needed to make our pool successful, make it operate successfully, and be less or as little of a burden on the general populace as we can.
Other comments by council? Questions? Okay, then let's turn to the request to speak. The first one I have is Chris Gunfit.
Greetings, council. Greetings, citizens of Canyon City. How's it going? Chris Gunfett. My friends call me Muppet. You can too. Here to talk about the excise tax, obviously. President of Royal Gorge Rio, one of Fremont County's river-based 501c3s. We have a vested interest in kids using the river safely and promoting outdoor recreation on our river while conserving it. And we're here to talk about how to make Canyon City stronger. One of the opportunities before us is the proposed pool. This project is not just about recreation, it's about community health, about giving our children a safe place to learn to swim, and about creating the kind of livable town that attracts and retains the employees our businesses rely on. The question is how to fund it, and the answer lies, at least in part, with our visitors. The Royal Gorge Bridge alone brings hundreds of thousands of people to this valley every year. These tourists enjoy our landscape, our hospitality, and our services, and it makes sense to ask that they contribute modestly to the amenities that make Canyon City a place worth visiting. The small visitor tax is not a burden, is a way to share responsibility fairly between locals who already pay year-round and visitors who benefit during their stay. I know there are concerns. Some say this threatens businesses and divides partnerships, but I see it differently. What really builds business is a strong community foundation. Towns across Colorado, Salida, Buena Vista, Breckenridge, Estes Park, all collect similar or higher visitor contributions, and their tourism industries continue to flourish. Our strength as a destination grows when we invest in ourselves. I want to pause. I want to recognize our public servants, Ryan Stevens, our city staff. They worked really hard to try to find a solution here, and their job isn't easy, and they deserve our thanks. But at the same time, I cannot help but notice that the ownership of the railroad, one of the most vocal opponents, is not here to take part in this discussion. If this issue truly threatened the heart of our community, one would expect to see them in the room listening and engaging. Their absence speaks for itself. I know someone's here from them, but not the man who wrote the little Facebook post. So I think we should take this moment to come together, not divide, and we should ask the visitors to support this pool by spending a small amount of money on their tax. And I don't have a lot of time here. I have 30 seconds left, but I want to draw some attention to the town charter. Article 14, public parks, specifically mentions swimming pools and how the city shall maintain, operate, and care for and improve from time to time as necessity requires. Isn't there a way we can, through the ordinance we just adopted like a year or two ago, where we can, as a city, adopt a park without going for a referendum to the people, adopt the park that contains the pool, and then maintain it as needed, which the pool obviously is a broken piece of equipment, does not work. Therefore, the maintenance required to bring it up to a usable option would be to build a whole new pool using the sales tax we just passed. There's so many good people in this room, and this is a contentious issue, and let's just figure this out, please, as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And just to put a number on what we're talking about, so for a $100 ticket, this would be a $2.25 charge on that ticket. Next, we have Cash Dankel, if I got that correctly.
Cash Parker?
Yes, Parker.
Sorry.
There we go.
My handwriting is not good.
The-
Probably should have gone into a medical career instead of a legal one. Good evening to the City Council and the citizens here in the room. I am Cash Parker. I'm an attorney representing the Royal Gorge Route Railroad, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of the Royal Gorge and urge this council and the citizens of this community to reconsider the resolution that is going to put this excise tax on the ballot. And several members of council have highlighted tonight that people should understand what they're voting on, and they should, and so should this council, and people in the community and on this council should understand the implications of this excise tax. But first, I think as everyone knows, because you can see as you step outside the door of this building, the economic engine that the Royal Gorge Route is for this community, bringing over 225,000 guests annually here, a payroll of more than $7 million, 300 people employed, and spending $2 million a year advertising the Canyon City region and the Royal Gorge region to the entire world, not just the state of Colorado. This tax is a punitive, discriminatory tax that is imposed on the businesses that drive the economy in Canyon City, be it not just the Royal Gorge Route, but also rafting businesses, small tourism businesses, and it will have a negative impact on those businesses. But what's also important for this council to understand, and for the citizens of this community to understand, is that the Royal Gorge Route is legally exempt from this tax. So even if it passes, the Royal Gorge Route has certain protections under federal law, including the Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act, as well as the Interstate Commerce Commission Termination Act of 1996, that exempt a railroad like the Royal Gorge Route from being taxed in this way. So what that means is two things that are very important to understand for all of you as stewards of the finances of this community and for all of the folks that pay taxes and live in this community. Number one, there will be a protracted and expensive legal challenge brought by the Royal Gorge route if this excise tax is imposed, and the Royal Gorge route will succeed in that legal challenge when it happens. Number two, when the Royal Gorge route is exempted from that tax, it will leave other businesses, namely the rafting partners that the Royal Gorge route has proudly worked with for many years, to make up the shortfall, and as has been openly admitted, there's not going to be enough money for the pool if that happens, if the Royal Gorge route is not funding the tax, because it is the target of this tax. And so you won't get the pool. Now, the Royal Gorge route has offered $100,000 annually contributed to a nonprofit to fund this pool, a legal, constructive, and community-focused solution that avoids this issue and gets to the ultimate goal of funding the pool. The Royal Gorge route is a proud member of this community, is a proud driver of economic opportunity in this community, and a proud driver of economic activity in this community. But the Royal Gorge route wants this council and the citizens of this community to understand the implications of this excise tax, that it will not accomplish its goal, and that it is because it is illegal as to the Royal Gorge route. And therefore, the Royal Gorge route urges this council to reconsider adoption of the resolution sending the excise tax to the ballot. Thank you all.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Yeah.
Who specifically did the Royal Gorge Route Railroad say that they would give $100,000 to? What 501c3?
My understanding, I don't know all the specifics. I was just retained on this matter, so I don't know every specific about that. So the Royal Gorge route has said that they would offer to put $100,000 in a contribution through a 501c3 vehicle. I am not sure. I don't know. I want to be completely transparent in answering your question, council member. I don't know if it's an established 501c3 or if the proposal is to establish a new 501c3 to do that, if that makes sense.
I haven't seen or heard of a specific proposal, so if that could be provided, that would be very helpful.
I certainly will speak to my client about that.
So I just wondered that you're a proud part of you say you're a proud part of our community. I have been for over 52 years. You don't think $2 is going to really hurt you?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the
You
question?
think $2.25 is really going to hurt you?
I think,
You don't know your client because it's your first night here.
well, I've worked with this client before, and
Do they pay that in other areas? Because he has trains elsewhere.
I couldn't say that, but what I
Well,
can
you
tell
should
you,
find out.
well, what I can tell you is that he does not pay illegally imposed taxes under federal law.
Well,
on any of his
I don't
businesses.
necessarily agree with that. If you don't be a participant of the community for $2, hey, that's okay, I suppose. But the public should know and will know that. Okay?
And I understand that's your point of view, Mayor. I understand that.
It is my point of view. I'm proud of this community. I've spent my life here. And what I saw in that paper is an insult. And take that back to your client.
I
Because
certainly
he didn't have the guts to show up.
I certainly will. He's not able to be here,
Oh.
so I don't think it's a matter.
Well, he was certainly able to get that to the paper.
Well, respectfully, another issue that my client raised is that there was not engagement with my client before this was pushed through. The first he learned of this excise tax was when it showed up in the paper on July 24th.
And that's what we're doing here. So he got his feelings hurt, basically.
No.
So I'm done,
I
okay?
respectfully disagree with that.
Well, you
Mayor.
can disagree all you want.
He didn't ask us about his bullshit.
Excuse me.
I'm out of here. I'm leaving. Just billboards are bullshit. Your client's,
So, thank you for coming.
No, thank you all for your time. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem
Yes.
Hamrick, Councilmember Tracy has her hand up.
Thank you. Councilmember Tracy.
Thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. It's kind of hard to know what all to touch on at this point, and I'm sure there are more people who want to speak, but I did want to provide maybe a little bit different way to frame this. I was thinking today about the sales taxes that we all as customers of businesses pay, regardless of, we pay sales taxes on tangible personal property that we buy. And sometimes those are fairly big ticket items. And whenever the city, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think over the years, if the city is proposing a small increase to sales tax, like we have done for fixing up streets, for example, we have not, I don't believe, found it necessary to go out and talk to a number of different businesses to explain to them why we're asking for the voters to approve a little bit of an increase in a sales tax. And, you know, I think we've gone above and beyond trying to do a reach out to businesses who, for the tickets that they sell now, whether it's trains, rafting, whatever it is, they're not eligible for sales tax to be applied. And so that's why we came up with this idea of an excise tax that applies more to services. But let me just give you an example. We buy cars, we pay sales tax. We buy tires for cars. In fact, I have in front of me a receipt from about a year and a half ago, the last time I bought new tires for my car. And I buy more expensive tires because I want them to last and I want them to be safe. So the total, I'm not going to name the business just in case somebody wants to undercut them, but I'll just say the total that I paid for 4 tires and the disposal fee and some of those things was over $1,200. And right here, a line item on the bill is for $93 for sales tax. $93 for 8.4% total sales tax. That's state, local, whatever. So 8.4%, we're paying that on things that we buy from local businesses. And we're not expecting that those businesses are going to complain about that. They collect the tax, they remit the tax, and it's been that way for many years. So I struggle a little bit with businesses who are complaining now about the concept of collecting a 2.25% excise tax on a service for which they're not collecting a sales tax, and that the business is not paying, the customer is paying. This is itemized on my bill when I bought my tires. The sales tax is a line item that I paid, and then it's remitted by the business. So I just wanted to provide that little bit of context. And I do have to say I'm not real happy about the tone of the previous presenter and saying that what we're doing is illegal and we're going to get sued and so on. I'm fine with this playing out in the courts if that's what needs to happen. But those kinds of statements to us at this point certainly do not influence me to say, oh no, we can't do this. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just a brief comment, Councilmember Tracy, you should count yourself lucky. My last set of tires cost $2,500. So.
Okay, I am lucky. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just a country girl. I'm confused. I thought that train just goes up the gorge and back. What other state besides Colorado do you touch for it to be interstate? That's my only question. And I'm sure there won't be an answer. Thank you.
I'll answer that question if you might be back up there.
I'm not sure we should delve too deeply into this and start litigating the matter from up here, but.
You know, I'm just making a point that
Sure.
I don't think that train touches another state, but I could be wrong.
Point made. Okay, let's hear from Andy Nenas next.
My name is Andy Ninus. Mayor Troutman, I would appreciate you asking me the same questions you asked that man, the attorney of the Royal Gorge Route Railroad. I would also like the ability to answer those questions outside of my 3 minutes. I'm from here. I live here. My kids went to school here. I am a community member here, and I had to dig to find this out. Nobody came to me. Nobody came to our industry. There has been no transparency whatsoever. You want to talk about your community? I am your community. I don't have enough time to go through what I have to say today. So I did spend 3 hours with the Colorado River Outfitters Association. I talked to several people with the Arkansas River Outfitters Association. I received a phone call from the executive director of America Outdoors. So yes, I've been burning a lot of time on this. I do not want to be here today. I do not want to do what I am about to do Until now, I have supported the pool, and I agree we need amenities like this in our community. But the City of Canyon City and the Recreation District have forced me to be here today. And you are forcing me to wear a black hat. So here we go. This is about the Royal Gorge Route Railroad, plain and simple. The city and the rec district are offering the commercial river outfitters as a sacrificial lamb to serve as a smokescreen when it comes to taxing the train. But I am not here to speak about the train. First of all, it is simply not my place to do so. Also, Mark Grexa is more than capable of doing this, and I believe he has counsel in the room this evening. I trust everyone has read the letter presented to council and, of course, the letter to the community that ran in the paper today. I'm here to talk about my business. In doing so, I intend to invoke the entire industry of which I have championed for decades. I have been one of the most involved voices for rivers in the commercial river industry in Colorado longer than any of you have sat on this council, and I'm willing to bet longer than any single employee has been employed with the city of Canyon City. This will be my 40th season in 2026. Do no harm. This concept, this strategy to fund the pool operations has been washed in a false sense of some greater good. I've been urged to see it this way, but the facts contradict this. The city of Canyon City and the rec district are advocating for a win at the expense of a select few of its own citizens, me. This is fundamentally wrong, and I am truly astounded that I have to stand here and articulate this message as if it is difficult to understand. I can only hope that Canyon City High School, where my 3 kids graduated, is doing a better job of covering concepts like civics and government, more so than the example that we see set out here today. I've barely started. Code of the West. God, I hope you know what it is. The unwritten moral code of behavior characterized by honesty, integrity, self-reliance, loyalty, and respect for others in the land. The proposed excise tax fails on all points and trips and falls on its face when it comes to integrity and respect, all the while cratering when it comes to self-reliance. Nobody called me, nobody sent me an email, nobody reached out. I had to figure this out for myself on Friday. Can I go on? Can I have more time? May I?
Not
I
right
live
now.
here.
Not right now. We have others that wish to speak, and so let's hear
Well,
from
you know
them.
what? I would respectfully ask that I get the opportunity to answer your questions, and you should reach out to us. You should include us. Our industry is only hearing of this now. There has been no effort to contact us whatsoever. There has been no transparency whatsoever.
Thank you. We appreciate your input, and your time has expired.
May I answer those same questions outside of my 3 minutes?
Not right now.
I look forward to that opportunity. I will appreciate the invitation to do so. I hope it can be done so in a public forum because I can speak to several of the points that were raised.
Thank you. Next, we have, and excuse me if I butcher your name, Swan Ashby? Oh, that's, there we go. Thank you. Suzanne.
I'm Suzanne Ashby and terrible public speaker, so forgive me. My concern isn't whether this goes through or not. My concern is if it does, and there is a shortfall, for example, as he was saying, if the train is exempt, that's probably the lion's share of it. I knew nothing about the possible annexation of the bridge. So, of course, my concern was if there is a shortfall in collecting these excise taxes, how would that be remedied? And then, because there's no guarantee that these businesses will generate enough revenue or even exist in, say, 15 years. I mean, you know, seriously. And on another note, I don't know if you all coordinate with the county or not, but I go to the commissioner meetings too, and we had somebody in there. I can't tell you details because it was a couple months ago and I didn't really catch the details, but they were talking about some sort of excise tax also. I believe it was on the lodging, but I wouldn't swear to it. But you might want to like get with the county and see if you're not having dueling excise taxes going on the ballot. Just a food for thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Mayor Pro Tem Hammer?
Yes.
I believe that what went before the county was a lodging tax. It was discussion around a lodging tax. And then, yeah, and it's not going on the ballot.
Okay, we've come to the end. More comments from council? Oh, yes, we use that formality for all the meetings, Dennis. But you're welcome to stand up and speak and fill out a form later and give it to Denise, please.
Hello, Dennis Swede. Thanks for letting me talk. A couple of things I just wanted to address. I think we haven't really addressed all the possibilities here. And, you know, we've talked about the annexation of the Royal Gorge Bridge. That has been talked about for years, if not decades. And that comes with a whole bunch of hurdles, not the least of which is if you annex it, then you have to provide city services, and that's water, sewer, fire, police. My recommendation is, and I don't know if the RFP for the Gorge contract has gone out or if it's being ready to be sent, but it seems like it would be simple enough to include or modify that RFP to simply state either ticket sales will be subject to a 2.25% tax, whatever you want to call it, or simply include as a provision of the contract, the Royal Gorge Bridge will provide, in addition to any other concessions, $500,000 a year to support a community pool. Just straightforward, make it part of the contract. That seems straightforward enough, and it seems like you should be able to amend the contract to do that. I don't think it's gone far enough that you couldn't do that. So, and it's a city-owned facility. Seems to make a lot of sense. And, you know, I think the people who will be bidding on that contract will just look at it as another condition. The other thing I wanted to mention is a financial opportunity that this city has declined to take advantage of for 20 years. And when I sat on council, I was promoted it, talked about it, but never gained any traction. And that is the sale of retail cannabis products. I did a little bit of research, actually a lot of research last night, pulling up numbers, and the Salida, or Chaffee County, in the past 8 years has averaged, and they're fairly steady. It kind of wobbles a little bit, but it's been fairly steady. They have generated municipally from the sale of cannabis on average about $400,000 a year, which would make a huge dent in what we're talking about we require. Also, if you tack that on with what we could get by leveraging the bridge that we already own, I think you might be able to cover more than just the half that you're hoping to get. And, you know, it's 20 years we have looked the other way on this. Legally, the issue has been solved. If it's a moral issue, get over it. It's a business decision. And I think that's a business decision that we need to make. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Yes.
I just wanted to speak briefly about the Royal Gorge Bridge. The RFP is out, so it is out. We will be getting proposals in shortly. So we couldn't add it to the RFP itself, but we absolutely can talk to the company as part of the contract negotiations about what does that look like in terms of the 2.25%. I would defer to City Administrator Stevens, but my impression, having dug in on the Royal Gorge Bridge finances quite a bit in preparation for the contract recompete, is that the margins aren't there for an additional $500,000 to come from like out of the pocket, like nobody would, nobody would take that contract, in my opinion of looking at the financials behind it. I would also just note that the money that the money that we currently get from the bridge funds the vast majority of our city parks department, and provides other things. So like that are very clearly
Which I
spelled
am
out
well
in the
aware
budget.
of.
So
Yeah.
absolutely. So I mean, it isn't, I think that you really are looking at a zero-sum game. So if we wanted more than a 2.25% or some sort of tax added onto a ticket, I think like it's an
Yeah.
excise tax. But if you wanted to say, hey, let's just fund the entirety out of the bridge, I don't think that you're
Yeah.
looking at a trade-off. Something else would have to go. But Ryan, please correct me if
I would agree with that. I think, discussing and negotiating the fee into the contract, I think that's certainly plausible and certainly something that we can do if that's the direction of council. And, I think-
Well, and I think it's a good direction. I mean, just like you've all said, it's an add-on fee.
Yeah.
Everybody pays add-on fees for everything. Doesn't make any difference what you rent, whether it's a car or a hotel, anything. There's always more fees in there someplace.
Absolutely. And I remembered what I was going to say. As Councilmember Schmischer mentioned, that RFP closes this Friday. So
Yeah,
we
okay.
will be reviewing, we have a consultant that's helping us review those submissions, and, that will be taking place here over the next several weeks.
Okay, well, thank you. And I would really seriously encourage you to consider the cannabis issue. We've let that one slide for 20 years, and the way I figured it, we've probably lost in excess of $10 million in revenue over those 20 years, probably more, but.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for that. Just a brief comment to the Royal Gorge Bridge is subject to the language in our charter, which does lay out how those funds are spent. And so there are guardrails there, or boundaries there that we can't cross without a charter change. Sure.
and apologies for putting you on the spot, I did not realize that retail marijuana, retail cannabis sales would come up this evening. Do you happen to know or remember offhand kind of what the past, when it has come before voters in the past and kind of what that looked like?
Well, it's never come up for a vote. It's always been.
Dennis, it did 10, 12 years ago, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it was never a citizen-initiated thing. It would have had to have been a council-initiated, and that never happened. So it's never been put to a vote or a real test. And I know when I was sitting on council and we talked about it, of the 30 or 40 people that would show up for a meeting, that was a very vocal opposed group. But, there's 16,000 other people in town who may have a different opinion.
Well, Dennis, we did put it on the ballot. I was here with you at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the position of previous councils, and I wasn't here for all of those times, but the last time it failed on the ballot, the position of the council at the time was that if it were to come back, it would have to be a citizen-led initiative.
Thank you for that. And I do see we have Councilmember Tracy who has her hand up.
Thanks for the time.
Thanks. I have a comment and a question. My comment is, again, kind of providing more context, other than the suggestion just made by former Councilmember Weed about exploring retail marijuana and the kinds of revenues that might produce locally, which that's another whole discussion that I'm sure would take many months to do. But other than that, I don't think we've heard any suggestions of other ways to to assist in funding the pool. And I just wanted to mention again, we've talked about this before, that it's 3 entities working together to try to make the community pool a reality. It's the recreation district, the city, and the school district. And we've really, in my opinion, we've had really excellent ongoing work for months and months about how to make this happen. We did pass the issue last year that provides the funding stream for the construction of the pool. And I think there was discussion for a while about the recreation district going back to the ballot this fall to ask for some amount of property tax increase, but I believe, my understanding is that that was rejected because there was a fear that there was such opposition to property taxes that that just might not be a good way to go. And so that's when, several months ago, the city, and unlike some comments that I've seen from one local business owner, this was not in secret. There was nothing being done in secret by staff of any entity of these 3 that are working together on this project. There have been public meetings, there's been public discussion, and there continues to be. But we got to the point where there just weren't other options. If those who are opposed to this would help us come up with a better option, great. But we don't want to let this election go by without a proposed solution on the ballot. I think that this is a good proposed solution, and I think we should go forward with it. I certainly don't recommend or ask that council take back a resolution that we already passed to put this issue on the ballot. So my question that I wanted to ask is, if we feel we need to be more precise and more detailed in this ordinance as far as what it applies to, what it doesn't apply to, I'm just curious what that process needs to be to flesh that out, and just wanted to hear if others have ideas on that, other than what, of course, we're already doing tonight.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Tracy. Do you have a reaction to that, City Administrator, about the process that we might use to flesh out the details of exactly what other, how specific do we want to be in the ordinance?
Yeah, I think I would defer to our attorney to see. She's the one that's actually going to have to modify that language, and I think that's part of the direction she's looking for tonight. So, Catherine, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick, you mentioned before understanding the intent of council, and I think that's really what I need. So I've heard 2 kind of comments. One is, what you intend to be included, and we had a brief conversation about just general recreational activities. So I think that's a point of discussion. Another point is in areas where you think it's unclear or there's confusion, I think we need to identify those and talk through those and see if we can't make that more precise and easy to understand.
Yes.
Thank you. And I do just want to note that I hope that after this part of the conversation that anybody who is in the audience who wants to speak or speak again would have that opportunity.
Sure.
Thank you. So I guess from my perspective, I think my understanding of intent was around recreational tourism. So not trying to tax local families who are trying to take their kids to the movies. But I'm concerned that attraction means an activity or point of interest that draws visitors to experience it. I mean, that could be the movies. So I'm concerned about that. I also think that like recreational excursion, like that could literally be almost anything that you buy a ticket for or pay a fare for. And that, except for sitting at the movies, because it requires some element of physical exertion. But that, I mean, that could be literally almost anything that people do in our town that is open to the public. So I also want to make sure that we're future-proofing this, because obviously, I mean, I think it's obvious, everybody on council wants kids in our community to have a pool and wants them to have, you know, meaningful ways to spend their time and remain engaged. And we don't want to increase taxes on items that locals are trying to take their kids to, like the movies or like, you know, what they're doing. I mean, I think from my perspective at least, I think the idea was, you know, we have a lot of tourists who come to town. There are entities that don't have to pay sales taxes. This could be a tax that could be added onto the bottom of their bill that would be primarily folks who are benefiting from coming to Canyon City, helping chip in for some of the Canyon City amenities. But that's just my perspective, so I certainly don't want to speak for the rest of council about intent.
Sure.
And I'm going to kind of, you know, like you're saying, with different activities, and a few people have even asked me about the golf course, and the golf course even said a lot of people come from out of town, but they're not, you know, right now. You know, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to give the train credit right now because they stepped up right now and said they do $100,000 a year. Now that's not the tax, and it's not the whole thing, but still, if we, you know, and I said this in the very beginning, if we went after some businesses, you know, the mine and stuff, and said, guys, what can we do? Look at the pool before a doctor did it. It was named after him. You know, if we, you'll look for corporate sponsors on this, but, and I don't know, and I've talked with Kyle on this and just different things, but, yeah, it's a tough deal.
John?
Yes, the Councilmember, and
It's okay.
Calling you in just a second. Councilmember Schmischer, so if I understand your concern, that recreational excursions might cover something that we haven't thought of yet, something we haven't named yet. Do you have any examples of that?
Sure. The way that I would read recreational excursion, I would think that would include golfing, because it's an activity open to the public for which a fare is charged to participate, in which there is some element of physical exertion by humans.
I would probably differ with that because I don't think it's a fare. I don't think that the golf course charges a
ticket is
fare.
required to be purchased? It's a fee, so it's not a ticket or a fare. So does that mean that people just need to say that it's a fee to?
It's a fee, like crossing a bridge.
And they call it that green fee.
It's like driving your car across a bridge, you pay a fee.
Right, but the bridge, we are saying would be.
Not our bridge, the George Washington Bridge. I pay $7 to go over the Whitestone Bridge when I go home. So it's a fee to go over the bridge.
I think Catherine's.
Please, yeah. Catherine.
Sorry to jump in here. I actually think my interpretation of that would not include golfing, but for a different reason. The term excursion, so when something's not defined in an ordinance, a court will look to the plain meaning, the definition of that term. And I don't think excursion, which is like typically like a short ride or journey, would cover golfing in my mind. And so that's where I differ a little bit in that interpretation. But that's not to say we can't be clear. I just wanted to say, I think that's where the line is.
So, oh, please. Yeah. I thought Councilmember Worthington had a, sorry.
Yes, did you want to jump in here?
Oh, I just wanted to, I'm probably being snide right now, and I appreciate the fact that the bridge had mentioned, not that I had ever heard it before, about the 100,000. But if you've ever done your taxes or given away money, a 501c3 allows the train to take it off as a tax deduction. What we are doing as an excise tax is not charging the train a thing. We are charging their customers. And I think that's a big difference.
Thank you. Councilmember Schmischer, did you have further thoughts you wanted to?
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that's why, just going back to the definitional thing, I think that's why we really do need to have a list of businesses that we think that this would impact so that they can be made aware in those conversations can happen and they can be part of the dialogue and discussion. Because I think that a reasonable person could interpret these definitions to include different things. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Sure, just a second. Do you have some idea of the process we would use to go through there? Would we ask our city administrator to prepare a list of yes versus no type businesses?
I mean, I want to make sure that we're not entering into legally gray area. I don't think that it should be based on, I don't think that we should be defining things based on which business it would or would not include. However, I also think that we will have to have a list come January, and it would be better from my perspective if we had that list, ideally quite a while ago, but if we had that list now so that that outreach could be done and so that there could be common understanding before the voters vote. Thanks.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And if you would, please, Ty, fill out a request to speak.
Fair
when
enough,
you're
yeah.
done.
My name's Ty Cipher. I'm the owner of Royal Gorge Rafting and Zipline Tours, so I'd like to know if I'm in the list, you know. I went to kindergarten here, graduated high school here, so I'm Canyon City proud, and we need a pool. I swam in the exact same pool that just broke as the Canyon City Piranhas. So I'm just as local as anybody. So my question is to the city attorney, basically, what's the number one reason, and maybe I'm not wrong, but you guys are trying to impose this tax on companies that aren't even in the city limits as well? If we take out our rafting customers at Pink House, I'm supposed to collect that tax even if I didn't sell anything in the city? Is that correct? Do I understand that correctly? Because
Sorry. Catherine, I think, the way we're looking at, and I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but that's currently the way it is written. Is that correct?
Yes, that's currently the way it is written. We are reviewing that issue.
Okay. Then my number one question to you then, Kat, is what is the reason causing the city to not be able to impose the excise tax on the bridge and park that you guys own that's not in the city limits, but you're imposing on the excise tax on all other companies that are not in the city limits as well? How, on what planet does that seem fair? And how can you justify not charging the bridge and park customers an excise tax when they're not in the city limits, but you are going to charge me and Andy's customers an excise tax because we're not in the city limits either? You guys need to think this out. It doesn't look right, okay? It's muddy, it's ugly, and it's not fair.
I would take a shot at that, Ty. I think that what you've heard tonight is a willingness of council to, right now we've got a contract with the bridge that does not include that excise tax, and we don't have the regulatory authority to impose it as we do on other businesses. So that's a contract.
I'd like to hear that from the city, the attorney, please. Can you explain that to me?
If I could finish.
Please.
So to me, what that means is that the city council has indicated that is something that I think that we would look on favorably to be added to the next contract, whoever that is, whoever the successful bidder is on the RFP, to add that into their contract. So
Well, if you don't add it now, you'll never get to add it.
The contract negotiations are going to take place over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So this is the time period that we would be able to add it.
Right, but I'm sorry, your mayor pro tem just said it's not in his best interest to ask for that at this time. And this is the only time you can ask for that.
Of the current contractor. Of the current contract.
Right, he's not going to give you anything. I'm talking about the guy for the next 20 years.
Yes, and that's what we're saying, yes, we want to do that.
Could I ask the question to our city attorney slightly differently? Sure. Could we say, because I don't think anybody up here, we all want the bridge to pay it too. I hope I'm speaking for everyone. Is there any legal reason why we couldn't say recreational excursions located, operated, or commenced within the city or on city-owned property. That would include our 3 mountain parks. Like, is there any reason why the city can't impose an excise tax on city-owned property that is not within the city limits?
Because there's a difference for taxation under the law regarding what's within your boundary and what you may own. And that's where the issue is. And so at the bridge, in the Royal Gorge Park, none of those operations occur within the city. And it's the services that are being taxed, in a sense, through the charge of the fare for the services, whether that's rafting or the train or whatever. That's the connection and the nexus. Nothing that happens at the bridge occurs within the city, despite the city owning the property. That's not a legal basis for the tax. That's why it has to be a fee, whether that's through a contract or an extraterritorial fee, which we have not looked into for the city. This issue was just raised tonight. We'd have to look into that to make sure you could do that, but it cannot be through the tax.
Okay, and that is black and white, like there is no gray. The city cannot impose, or not, we're not imposing anything. The city cannot put a ballot issue forward that would include taxing something that is on city-owned property.
That is outside the city boundary.
That is, sorry,
Yes.
that is outside the city boundaries, even
Yeah.
though it is city-owned property.
Correct.
But you can impose that tax on me and make me collect it, even though I'm not in the city limits as well. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I gave you the example of the bridge. You operate within the city, and the way that the ordinance is currently written, and this may not be its final product, and the issue that we are looking at is whether those operations create a connection between the city and your business sufficient for the city to impose the tax. That's the question.
So would my zip lines have an excise tax because they're all on my own private property?
They would not.
Okay. So it's just the train and all of us raft guests. What else is there? The Jeep tours. Will's going to have to pay for the Jeep tours, the rafting, and the train. Like Andy said, it's a smoke show to get the train's money. You know, is really what this is. You know, we're only got 40,000 guests coming down here. You know what I mean? So it's only 80 grand we're kicking in. Even if we do, you know, $3 bucks. You know what I mean? So the vast majority is coming from the train guy. So I don't understand. And, you know, I never looked at a smoke show until Andy said that, but this is I don't know what's going on here, but like I say, I'm Kansas City proud and I want a pool. Don't get me wrong, but I don't understand how you're taxing a company that doesn't operate in your city just because they're taking the rafts out in your city limits, okay? Never heard that happening before.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments.
Can I ask one quick question?
Sure.
Ryan, just going off the top of your head, can you, because this is public, what is the gross revenue at the bridge? Roughly, just a rough number.
Probably 12 to 14 million, I believe.
Okay, so that would be, let me do the math. Right.
That's gross.
Right. But I'm talking to you when you tax it. Right. No, I know.
Okay.
I'm running a rough, easy number here, just to see, because then if we're saying that we're going to be going looking for the bridge, which I think is great, but all of a sudden, then we're going to have, as we said, maybe excess. But how much excess do we want to have? And that's not something that I'm real proud of. I'm not proud of any tax, but.
So if it was a round number of 12 million at a 2.25% interest, it would be 270,000.
Thank you. Thank you for that. We do have another request for speaking. Will, you want to come up, please? Oh, and Councilmember Tracy, do you still have your hand up?
Yes.
I will call on you as soon as we hear from Will.
Yes, my name's Will Cole, and I'm the owner of Colorado Jeep Tours and partner in Raft Masters. And thank you, Council, for letting me speak, and Mayor. When Councilwoman Schmusher brought up the fact about who will be taxed, and I felt I could shed some light on that. You guys have opened up Pandora's box, and you can't close it now. You guys have really got a problem on your hands. If you go forward with what appears to be taxing rafting companies for taking out in Pink House, taxing me for driving my Jeeps through town, then are you guys going to tax charter buses that come through town? Who's going to police that? Are you guys going to charge the private tours that come through town? You have no idea how many there are, but I don't know how many, but there's a lot. And there will be no policing. Right now, you're taxing the local people who bring people here. Okay, we pay property taxes, we pay sales taxes, and now it looks like you guys are trying to make us pay an excess tax. The out-of-town people that do tours here that you guys don't know about, there's Jeep tour companies who drive through here, and you guys don't even see them. Why? Because they're not marked. Some of them are. You have charter buses that you don't think about that drive through here. They're on a tour, they're on a scenic tour. Who's going to police that? Why is it fair that you guys tax the local people, but not the unlocal people? Because that's what you're doing. So think about that, because you're not going to be able to, you're imposing something on us that you're not going to oppose on everybody. And they're doing the exact same thing I'm doing tours. Exact same thing that Andy Ninus is doing, the same thing Ty is doing, the same thing Dennis is doing.
Don't you think it goes to the ticket, where the ticket is sold? Where's the ticket sold for that tour bus that goes through here? I agree with you.
My tickets are sold outside of the city limits. That's the reason I moved outside of the city limits, because you guys wouldn't let me build a barn.
You talked about the tour bus, a tour bus driving through town.
Yeah, I don't know. They're
Didn't they buy
not
their
sold.
ticket?
They're not sold in the city limits.
Right, right.
But
Yeah.
either is Andy's tickets.
The only thing it comes down to is where you take the raft out, where you come out of off your rafting at the Pink House.
Okay,
Isn't
so
that it?
somebody brought up Jeep tours. My people get in my Jeep and get out of my Jeep outside
Okay.
of the city.
Outside the city?
Mm-hmm.
But they get in the city.
We drive through the city, just like a tour bus does.
Well,
Just like a private tour does.
you don't load them in the city?
What?
You don't put them in the Jeep in the city?
No, my place is in the county.
Oh, that's right, you're out, okay. Well, then I don't know why you would be part of the tax.
Great, thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
My trip's no different. They board my bus on 8 Mile Hill. It is a contiguous service.
Excuse me, sir, just hold hard for a second, please. What you need to do, we're at the point, any other comments from council now? Yes, Councilmember Tracy. I'll call on you right after I talk, she has a say. Please proceed.
Thanks. Yeah, my comment isn't responsive to what Mr. Colon raised. It's just really, again, I think it's important that we frame this the same way we frame a discussion about sales taxes, which is we're not charging a business a tax. The customer pays the tax. Right here on my bill that I brought with me when I bought my tires a year and a half ago, it's a line item on the bill what the 8.4% sales tax totaled in dollars and cents. And that's what I paid. I paid that along with what the business was charging me for materials and other things, tires. And then the business then remits those taxes that they collect. They're the collector, but we're not taxing the business. We're taxing customers. And I have this sense that we're getting off on that concept. And this is not targeting the train business. It's not targeting Jeep tours, rafting companies. Certainly when we are trying right now to characterize what the excise tax would apply to, it certainly gets talked about that way, that we're talking about targeting specific businesses, but that is not the way to look at it any more than we ever targeted my tire company and charged them. We didn't charge them the $93.23 that I paid. I paid that tax. The company did not pay it. So again, I think it's important that we characterize this correctly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Tracy. Let's get to Andy Ninus. Andy, you wanted to dialogue a little bit more?
Where would you like to start? Throw anything at me.
Well,
Any question you could possibly conceive of.
We're glad to receive your input, but
Well,
if you have things you'd like to say, that would be
Sure. Here's one. I take out at the Pink House on private property. My guess, just so we're clear on this little, this little itty bitty 2.25% that nobody cares about. It's $5.78 on every single Royal Gorge full day guest I take out. It's $3.62 on every single half day guest I take out. Will, do you lose raft trips over $5 every single day? Every single day I lose a raft trip to an outfitter over a $5 bill. You are chasing money out of Fremont County into Chaffee County. Because you don't know, you never asked us, you never came to us, and someone insinuated that this has been done in the light of day. I don't live in the city, my business is in the city. It is incumbent upon you to contact me. There comes a point where you need to reach out. And Mr. Stevens, the people affected would fit around your conference room table. There's so few of us. This has been done not in the light of day. You could have sent me an email, you could have made a phone call. Chaffee County outfitters are proportionally lower than us. I have the empirical data to support this statement, provided by Colorado Parks and Wildlife, which has been auditing every single outfitter for 25 years. We are at a price disparity, and you are going to increase that price disparity. And I say naive in a complimentary sense. The naivete of the consumer in Colorado Springs from Texas looking on their phone to go rafting is really just looking for sometimes the cheapest raft trip. I will have, and that's this year's prices, it's going to be $6 next year for me to drive 2.1 miles through town. I'm going to take out on Riverside Drive and drive 1 mile through town. I'm going to make a left on First Street. I'm going to make another left and go 1.1 miles out of town. You want my guests to pay you $5.78 to drive 2.1 miles through this community? This is what I mean by you have made us wear a black hat. You have opened Pandora's box. I want the goddamn pool. I live here. My kids are from here. They were raised here. And you are creating animosity between your own people because you're short-sighted and you didn't take the time to call, email, ask, contact, nothing. You're culpable. You're culpable. Don't sit here and tell me that this is some innocent little thing. We are the sacrificial lamb being treated as a smokescreen to go after the train because we're all disappointed that we don't get more sales tax from the train. I get it. But that doesn't mean you get to take advantage of a select few. Is it easier just to pick on 6 or 7 of us? Because God knows you wouldn't be doing this in front of our entire community. But if you can knock off 6 or 7 of us and get us over there in that corner, maybe you can pick us off that way, because that is what is happening. And you would know that had you chosen to dialogue with us at all, which you did not do. Also, the city of Canyon City does nothing for me. Name it. What does the city do for me? What does the city do for my company? What does the city do for my industry? We have never asked for anything, nor have we been approached and offered anything. And you're coming to us asking for money, and for what? For what? You failed. You failed to reach out and connect with us. You want us to help you. You must ask first. But when you don't ask, we are not afforded the opportunity. This is a broach of common sense. This is a broach of protocol. And by the way, I just got to say it, this is intellectual blasphemy. Let's be smart. Let's use our IQ. Let's give Mayor Troutman, I see you smirking at me over there. Ask me the same questions you asked him. Ask me the same questions.
No, you go ahead and rant and rage. That's fine.
Rant and rave.
That's what you're doing. You're shouting and screaming and banging on the podium and everything.
I'm trying to make a point.
That's cool.
If this was
no, really,
if this
make
was your
point
mother,
calmly. Then
if this was your
make your point calmly.
You bet.
That's all we're asking.
If this was your daughter,
like a mature person, go ahead and make that point. I understand that. I use your place. I go up there and eat. You come in town, use our facilities in town.
Where? What?
So
What facility do I use in
I'm a customer
town?
of yours.
What facility
Maybe not
do I
very
use in
long.
town?
You live in town?
I'm annexed in the city. I live at 1409 Willow. I'm just outside of the city limits.
Okay, do you use city water?
I do, and I pay for it.
Okay, good, good. You said we didn't give you anything. Water, we don't give it
No,
to
I
you. You
pay
buy
for
it.
that. You don't
Right,
give Echo
okay.
Canyon River Expeditions, Royal Gorge Rafting,
So-
Raft Masters, or any of us anything. And sir, thank
So-
you for stepping on that mine for me. Bring me water on 8 Mile Hill, and you can tax the tar
Love
out of
to.
me. So if you
Absolutely
would
love
like to bring
We
me
would like to
water,
bring
you're
you
the one who,
water. We've
no, no,
tried
no, no,
that several
sir.
times
You're
to
the
do
one who
it.
mentioned it. I know you're the mayor,
Huh?
but, you're the one who mentioned it. Bring me water.
Yeah, I would love
irony
to.
that you broached that. Thank you.
Do
Please
you want
do.
to pay for it? You want to pay for the money to take it up
2.25%,
there?
I would be happy to pay 2.25%. You guys don't understand there's a schism that already exists between 8 Mile Hill and Canyon City. You are adding to that. You are driving a wedge between tourism and our own community. I want the pool. You're going about it the wrong way. You've wrapped to this warm blanket of good feelings about something we desperately need. But it should not insulate you from what you're doing to other people in your community.
What would you suggest we do to get the pool? There's the
Sir,
school district.
sir,
No,
if
don't
you would-
interrupt me. We got the school, we had the city, and we had people working on that. What other ideas would you all propose? I would love to hear it. I have spent hours on this. So as a council.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. No one has ever asked me, so let me start by
You're a
saying thank
citizen.
you.
Why didn't you? This was going on.
Oh, I
You know
particip-
the-
I
you know the
participated
vote
in the
failed.
surveys.
Why didn't you wanted the pool so bad? You could have come up with suggestions. You knew it failed. That was public, and nothing.
Actually, sir, unfortunately, it is regrettable that our community has spoken. They have logged how they feel about this with us. But there are some very courageous people who are fighting hard for the pool. And I admire the effort that's going into it. I'm not poo-pooing that, but you are sacrificing some of us along the way. And you never even bothered to reach out. So if you want to get into some kind of an argument, I'm your guy.
No, I'm
I
asking.
can do it
no, I'm
in an
asking you-
inflammatory manner.
I'm
I
asking
can
you
do
for
it in a
some
calm
type
manner.
of suggestion that we can get to that pool to pay that.
Well,
And you don't
in
have it.
speaking with Mr. Weed in advance, in Canyon City needs weed. Yeah, so let's bring it back to retail marijuana. I think that the city, in answer to your question, sir, since you were kind enough to give me the podium so that I might address this, I think that problems like this that face our community often require a chorus. And I think that chorus might consist of the generosity that was extended by the Royal Gorge Route Railroad for $100,000. I think that, I know I insinuated, I indicated, I'm like, hey, is it too late to pack something into the RFP with regard to the city? If you guys didn't do that, maybe there was a planning issue. Maybe we weren't paying attention. I'm just going to leave it at that. But there could have been an opportunity to do that there. So if we could somehow figure out a method to do that. I think there are probably, again, other options. If you guys would have come to the Commercial River Outfitters and asked us that question, which has never happened, if we would have the opportunity to talk about Black Hills, which I have been engaged with, again, longer, probably, definitely than anyone sitting on the bench ahead of me, and certainly, very likely longer than anyone who has worked with the city. For 15 years, I've been stacking the deck. Ryan knows this, to the best of my ability at the state and region level with Colorado Parks and Wildlife to create several tranches of funding that will come through because their fiscal year is complex, because their funding mechanisms are very complex. We have the wildlife side, we have the park side. It's hard to understand, but those are also opportunities where we can pull from multiple different channels within CPW. I just told you this the other day, I believe, and my peers will agree with this. Please disagree with me if you disagree with what I'm about to say. My fingerprints will be on hundreds of thousands of dollars of money that come into this community from CPW for the Black Hills property. It matters to me, just like the pool matters to you. We all pull the levers that we're good at. In my 2 full terms as chairman of the state's Wildlife Council, spending $1.50 of every single hunting and fishing license sold in the state of Colorado, gave me the insights that I need to understand how to work with a very complex enterprise agency like Colorado Parks and Wildlife. You guys are sacrificing me, and you're sacrificing your own over this. This is short-sighted. So if you wanted my help, ask me.
I think message received. We thank you for your passion. Do we have, yes? What?
Could I ask Mr. Ninus a question?
Sure.
Sorry, Mr. Ninus, would it be okay if I asked you a question? I just want to better, or I could ask Mr. Colon if you'd prefer. I just want to better understand, because I think we've heard about it's a tax, it's not, something that people would see in the initial cost, that when they're trying to decide, am I going to go with a Chaffey County outfitter or am I going to go with a Fremont County outfitter? And I would just like to have a better understanding of how the pricing works, so that when people are looking at who to book with, and I'm not talking about between y'all, but between a BV outfitter. I asked if I could hear from you, Mr. Ninus, but I'm happy to hear from Mr. Colon if you would prefer.
I think again, I would take the course.
Excuse me. This is being recorded. We need you to speak in the microphone, please.
Sure, I think Mr. Colon is more than capable to address this, but I think a lot of my outfitter peers look to me as, the person who really did pioneer the economic value analysis that I've provided to the city on a number of occasions. And we were smart enough to bifurcate that data between Chaffey County and Fremont County because we felt the need to do that so that we could appeal to people like you and show the economic value that we bring that is being dismissed here today. But it is it's a volatile product. It tends to be emotionally charged. It's very last minute in nature when people make buying decisions. Certainly in a year like this, we're seeing that more than usual because, quite frankly, of the economy, the cost of groceries, things along those lines. So if you were to average the top 10, 12 outfitters from both upstream and downstream and look at their average price, which is available to you via John Kresge at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, you would notice there is a disparity that exists between the upper and the lower river. Ty, you're $129, $139 for a half day. I believe Wilderness Wear is $84 for a half day. Go to interraft.com on your phone right now. Go to whitewater.net. That would be River Runners. Go there right now. I can rattle these all off the top of my head. Then go to raftecho.com. I'm $10 behind Ty. Okay, we're talking about significant price disparities. The consumer, okay, we have to be transparent with our pricing, with our visitors when they come to see us. We share these fees. We're very upfront. And we also deal with guests on the phone who aren't necessarily making those transactions online. If you get that guest on the phone, you might be able to secure that sale by talking about the quality and amenities and all the things that you might have at your facility or my facility. But when it's just price driven, when all I'm doing to plan my family vacation is this will serve as a financial barrier to all of the outfitters who are currently standing in this room. I don't expect you to believe me, but I also know you haven't been a student of my industry for 40 years like I have.
So what's driving that disparity between the upper river and lower river?
I think there are a variety of things, and I'm quite frankly going to tip my hat to Ty. I think Ty has been very much a price leader. I think we've pushed very hard. I think that there's a different level. There's some very savvy operators upstream, so I don't want to say there's a difference in business acumen, but I want to say that there may have been a realization within our industry that our cost structure has really become out of hand. For example, insurance costs are vastly exceeding CPI. For those of us who are on 8 Mile Hill where we don't have city water, I don't have a fire district, so I'm in the 99th percentile when it comes to property insurance. So we're dealing with a lot of forces. We're dealing from insurance to advertising costs, which constantly exceed CPI. Quite frankly, something I want to talk about with the industry is the impact on OTAs, online travel agencies, and how they are really coming in. Ty, my top performing keywords, I'm happy to say I'm always fighting it out with you, and I'm always fighting it out with you. But I'm also fighting it out with six OTAs.
Please stay on point. The question is about price difference, and I believe the question that Council Member Schmischer asked was, when customers look at your pricing and the pricing of your competitors, do they see the taxes that are imposed on all the entities?
Yes.
They do.
Well, yes. Now, not everybody handles it exactly the same, but you have to remember, we're very closely scrutinized by Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So we don't have the luxuries that perhaps some other industries do. So if you're calling online, we're very transparent, and the way we handle it at Echo Canyon is we email you a quote and we talk you through it. But even in the checkout process, that information is right there.
In the checkout process? Yeah, sure. After the decision has been made.
Oh, no, that's before they click buy. So what you're talking about is something called abandoned carts. And, you know, I am not an IT expert, but I spend an awful lot of money on it. And I spend a lot of money on retargeting Ty and Will's clients, and they do the same thing to me. So abandoned carts is a very typical term. You don't have to believe me. You'll see exactly what I mean. I just substantiated my answer to your question, I believe.
I'm not sure I heard there, you pay higher advertising costs and higher insurance, but we're talking about $50 a person per trip difference. What's driving that?
Some of, like I indicated, I think there might be a little difference in business acumen with some outfitter members. There are roughly 45 outfitters on the Arkansas River. There's approximately 10 of us comprise the top 68% of the industry. The top 15 outfitters are about 75 to 77% of the industry. So really it's controlled by very few. So there are some price leaders, and then there are some who are not as price conscious, and they are not really paying attention to the expense side of what they do. I don't want to sit here and say there's a difference in outfitters. I have a personal rule. I only talk positively about outfitters, even though there is a spectrum. Does that make sense? Are you kind of picking up what I'm laying down?
Yeah, I mean, I run a business too, and I have competition as well.
Yes.
So and like you kind of got upset that we didn't come to you immediately and ask you these questions, but when a sales tax gets increased, Ryan doesn't come and ask me, how do I feel about 0.3% being charged to me? I have to build it into my business. So I'm getting to your point earlier that you're very upset that we didn't have these conversations. But as a business owner, and there's others in the crowd, they don't come to us and say, hey, we're raising your sales tax 3%, so figure it out. You know, that's just not how it works. So my question to you is, we have to work on margins. We want to be profitable. We want to make a lot of money. But you're blaming this 2% potential that's going to kill you. However, you have a $50+ disparity between competition upriver. So I'm trying to get to the root of what is driving that disparity that you are saying you're losing people to the upriver companies.
Well, I really do want to open the floor to others who can comment on that.
I'm sorry,
because
I'm
it's very
chairing this
obvious.
meeting. Please, if you would like to answer the question, that's fine. If not, we'll move on to someone else.
There's some very mediocre outfitters out there who do not reinvest into their organizations. Unfortunately, it is a little bit of a tradition and a history that exists within our industry. I think it's quite apparent if you were to drive into their boatyard and you were to look at their transportation, their amenities, the quality of their equipment, maybe the focus that's put onto their guides, guide training, instruction. There are always going to be industry leaders, people who set the bar, people who push hard, people who are making a difference in our very niche-oriented field. But not every guest has the ability to appreciate those subtleties. The internet has done a wonderful job of making everyone appear very laterally integrated, okay? So you've got a nice website. Does that mean you're a good business? Maybe, maybe not. You know, the time it would take to answer your question fully would require us to sit down at a table, which I would be willing to do, and I'd be happy to bring documentation, and I'm sure others would join.
I'll just answer it myself. You guys do great. You are fantastic. Every outfitter in this town is great. So you pay a premium for better services, and that's perfectly fine. So when my prices go up, when my costs go up, when my tax goes up, I have to ebb and flow and figure out how to retain customers. And I have two other businesses where I'm taxed and feed to death. Every year, I go from 500 to 600 to 1,000. My insurance goes triples every year. I have to ebb and flow and figure it out. My margins shrink, but I'm not in control of that. So I understand you guys all provide fantastic services. I've been rafting with you, I've been Jeep tours, I've done it. It's awesome, and you pay a premium for that. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with the argument. There's so many towns in Colorado that charge amusement excise tax. Manitou's got one coming on the ballot, might go up to 14%. Because they're dying, because they lost marijuana sale revenue to Colorado Springs. This isn't something new that we came up with. You can do a quick search of who charges excise tax in Colorado and why, and you'll get a whole page of what's taxed. And the anxiety and the anger in here is just blowing my mind. You know,
You guys don't do anything for us.
I understand.
You give us nothing.
Look, I wasn't a fan of this to start with, but no one came up with a better idea. We're losing time. We lose another year on this pool. It's never going to happen. So I don't know if I'm making a point or if I'm just, soapboxing right now. So I'll just end it there. You answered my question. I appreciate it.
There is another point there to be made, and I will call on Councilmember Tracy here after this point. But the point is that I think from my view on council, and I think perhaps council shares this view, is that this is kind of a do or die situation for the pool. If the excise tax does not pass, we're not sure we have the authority to continue collecting construction funds for the pool. That is something that we have to look at, but that is a large concern. Councilmember Tracy, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. In this question, I think it's for Mr. Ninus, if he's still there. And I did want to say hi to you, Andy. I met you, I think it was last year when I spoke to the Water Education Colorado tour when it stopped at the river in Canyon City. What I missed, whether you said anything about this or perhaps any of the other operators, I missed when you were talking about online sales and abandoned carts and people seeing what they were going to pay in those online sales. What taxes are being collected now on tickets that you sell for rafting trips? What taxes are operators collecting now, if any?
We're permitted by the state of Colorado, so I'm going to look to my peers to actually make sure I don't screw this up. We pay 5% or $4 per person, whichever is greater, to Colorado Parks and Wildlife in the form of a user fee.
Okay, fee. But what about a tax? A percent tax, a state sales tax, a local sales tax? I'm assuming there's not.
No, because we're labor, ma'am. We're labor.
You're providing a service instead of a tire, like I'm talking about on my receipt.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I'm struggling still when I'm paying 8.4% on any goods that I buy, including expensive tires or anything else you can name. I'm struggling with this argument from providers of services who just don't want to collect any tax at all. And I'll just leave it at that. I just really am struggling with why we would say that we just don't want to collect anything on that kind of a service. And again, I'll say that those of us who've been involved with this issue have been involved for years, and we're looking every which way for a solution. And we do, I think Mr. Hammer just said this, that it's kind of do or die now. If this doesn't work this fall, we're not going to have a community pool. And the city will most likely need to take steps to figure out how to just abandon, get rid of, refund, whatever it's going to be, the tax that's already the sales tax that's being collected for the construction of the pool. So I'm just very concerned that we have now in September of this election year something that could really cause this effort to disintegrate. I think it would be a terrible disservice for this community if we cannot replace our community pool. That's all.
I agree with everything you just said.
Thank you. We do have another person that wishes to speak. Mandy Reed. I almost said Councilmember Mandy Reed.
Good evening, Council. My name is Mandy Reed. I reside at 75 Ptarmigan Trail here in Canyon City. I am going to look at the screen a little bit because I do struggle hearing some of you sometimes, so I can read your responses. I actually wasn't planning on being here tonight, but I have been listening online live and reading the subtitles for this evening's presentation. I wanted to just bring a couple of suggestions for you to ponder this evening. I've had the privilege of serving with many of you up there, and I know we have spent a considerable amount of time trying to change the culture of Canyon City being business friendly. I'm not here to make a hard stance and say this is absolutely not business friendly. I understand the need of the community and the pool, and I agree with those initiatives. But I think from my observation, one of the things that's happening here is there is a group of business owners that are for a really family-friendly, fun business community. Like, I'm looking at people here and I know every name in the room, and it's not because we do business, it's because we live in the same community. And so I just want to remind you that the decisions that we're making is furthering a culture. It's making a statement about the city's stance of being pro or anti-business. And it's not necessarily just this one point, but it's all of the points that we have made for over a decade of trying to continue on and change the narrative that has been spread over and over and over about our city and about the way we transact business, whether that means it is transparently and open, which this is a great forum for that, or if it is to assist our businesses in doing more business, if it's recruiting businesses that come to the community. I do feel like we've tried really hard to figure out the pool, and it seems like the burden of responsibility kind of got laid here tonight as maybe the solution. I know there's a lot of that, and I'm not minimizing the effort. I believe that each of you are up there because you want to serve the community that you live in these pieces, but I just think that we need to be making sure that we are continuing the culture that we all, at different periods of time, have taken oaths and made promises to this community to commit to. And so as we even just communicate with the group that's here, I would encourage each of you maybe to go back tonight, and it's really uncomfortable to watch yourself on video, but I would do it. I would look at your faces and your gestures and your tone, your inflection of your voice, because it carries a lot of volume, not just to your constituency, but also to people who are looking to Canyon City to move here. And so I bring this to you genuinely as a plea. There's also business owners here and in other places that feel like they can't talk to you for fear of retaliation, which again, I do believe that I know each of you well enough. I don't believe that you would intentionally want to create that culture. But from someone who's not up there right now, but who has been there, I just want to encourage you to really take that thought into consideration, because you are setting a precedent for what's to come and for businesses that want to do things in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, Tim.
I just have one more, because I've had a person text me, because they were a former raft guide, and the one thing they did say is, what if the rafting companies, let me get to my text here, excuse me one sec. There we go. What if the rafting companies pull out in the county, decide to change where they're pulling out and pulled out in the county, would that then exclude them from the tax?
Yes.
I guess, and maybe this is a slightly different way of saying it. I know that there's the River Station Depot, which is quite a bit further along so that, is perhaps not feasible. Does the idea of prioritizing where any excess funds go to the public-private boat ramp at the Black Hills Clark Station property, thereby obviating the need or thereby eliminating the need potentially to pay a private takeout fee? Like, does that help offset? I think just based on, if I'm recalling correctly, how much it does cost, I think it would be roughly the same. Does that help? Or is that like so far down the road that it's, oh, sorry, I'm just looking at you, Dennis, because you're or Mr. Weed, because you're the closest. But I just don't know. And so I really am asking for your expertise.
The takeout fee we pay is $1 per person, and we're talking about a $3 fee from the excise tax.
So I'm going to repeat what you just said because you didn't say it into a microphone, and I bet that there are lots of people watching. So, but please correct me and come up if I get it wrong. It would help because currently you pay $1 per person, and the excise tax would be about $3 per person. So it helps, but it definitely doesn't completely offset. Or it would help, but it definitely doesn't completely offset.
That would certainly help, but to answer your question, I was just doing some quick math, If you, what do we need, $500,000? We need $500,000 to run the pool. That's how much it's gonna lose every year. You're not taking into consideration how much you're gonna bring in, and that's just the loss you're gonna have every year?
That is the shortfall.
But to be clear, the loss at the Canyon City Recreation Department, which is not part of the city, I know you know that, but others may not. So it's not a city loss or shortfall.
Gotcha.
But that
Okay.
is the Canyon City Rec District's shortfall.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So let's just be real here. We've seen other things try to get pushed through the ballot before. Our lodging tax that tried to go through, what was it, 10 years ago, that just was for tourists going to the hotels, got crushed. When we did our tax for our rec district, I wish that would have passed. It got crushed, okay? Any kind of thing that says tax is very unlikely to get passed through here. So, to be honest, if we were to be able to, the train is offered $100,000 a year, bank it. If we put $1 excise tax on every guest that went to the Royal Gorge Bridge, that's $350,000 a year. That's 450 grand. You guys can somehow find $50,000, like Tim was talking about, some donors or some sponsors, or there's got to be a doctor that wants to put his name on the pool. You know what I mean? There's got to be a company that wants to put their name on the swimming pool. It's not, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. Again, I went to kindergarten here, graduated high school here, swam as a piranha in that same pool. We need a swimming pool. I'm not doubting that. We need a rec district as well. But it's not going to pass. Okay? Then the train's going to be pissed. He's not going to give any money. This way, I don't know if you can get that in writing and get it somehow. Kyle was talking about how is that going to, what happens if that goes away? Well, if you put something together for a term, $1 per person at the bridge, I'm sure you can negotiate that in with your RFP when it comes up. This is what we're asking you. You keep all the money you want, but there's going to be an extra $1 that goes to the pool fund every year. I don't know why that couldn't add up pretty easily.
Thank you for that.
And retail, like I say, the pot shacks aren't going away. You know what I mean? We were real good about that, and I would love it if you did that, because I'm sure there'll be about 20 buildings in town that would actually be sold instead of just sitting there vacant for sale as well. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Sure, Will.
So you guys made the mistake of asking for ideas. He's got one. Dennis has got a couple. Andy came up with a couple. If you took everything that Ty just said and you took the money that you've already got voted to clear to build the pool, and you guys built a pool, not an aquatic center, a pool, not an indoor pool, a pool that we use just like Ichabone. It's open in the summer. Your cost of operating it, you're not going to have to operate in the wintertime, so you're going to cut that. So if we look at this problem, we come from both directions. You've got the train that's willing to kick in $100,000. You hit the bridge for a little bit, and you cut your operating cost, and we have a pool instead of an aquatic center. Maybe there's an answer there. Just like you guys, I talk to a lot of people in this community, and people keep coming to me and go, why do we need this monster pool? It looks great. It's beautiful. I saw it in the paper. It looks nice. But we need a place for the kids to swim. Let's build them a pool and a locker room, just like we all grew up with here. I don't think we need the whole Taj Mahal look.
Can I just ask,
Sure.
just a simple, because I grew up with, not at my school, but my sister and my brother swam at Coronado, swim team at Coronado. And that was one thing that we've heard a lot about, especially with the piranhas and that, and the kids getting older and that. Just, and with you guys being in the rafting community, is that something that you think would be important here, to have a pool that can be, and I'm asking you this, Will, and I'm asking all you rafting people, because, you know, by the time my son gets old enough, it's going to be tough. But would I have loved to have seen him be able to join a swim team in that can continue on, you know, maybe into high school? Maybe you could, you know, some of these kids could get good scholarships. And I'm not saying, you know, what you're saying is bad or good, or I'm just kind of, I saw the pool with the lanes being a great chance for us to have a swim team in this community. No, maybe 20 years ago, but, you know, we're advancing. Just a thought. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not saying right, wrong, or anything. You know, I always hoped there would be a swim team here that could go on for, you know, as kids get older, rather than just in the summer. But a lot of people don't agree with that, and I understand why. Again, because of the cost, and just make it simple. So.
Right, we had a swim team that seemed to have worked, but where it looks like we're all going to have to give a little bit here, and I'm just throwing out ideas, just as you're throwing out ideas, Tim. So thank you for your time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. My question is actually for Attorney Sellers, based on Mr. Colin's suggestion about a different pool, or a smaller pool, I think is probably the best way to say it, or a pool that would cost less money. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but Attorney Sellers, I guess, what are the options? We had a ballot issue. The city had a ballot issue, and the rec district had a ballot issue last year that both passed, and that's what's enabling the pool construction sales tax to be collected and bonded. What options are there for building a different pool than the one that was put on the ballot, if that makes sense? I don't know if I'm saying that quite right. Will, feel free to amend the question if I'm not.
And Will, just before you start talking, I have to step out. I have a son that needs to get to bed, and so I apologize to everybody, but my son is my priority. Thank you.
Yes, you're correct. And again, a pool with just like Ichabod, maybe a little bit, obviously a little nicer, a little bit modern, but from my understanding, we have a indoor, outdoor pool it looks beautiful, and it's beautiful grounds and everything, but maybe there's a way that could be cut back. That's all I'm saying, is something that isn't quite as all year. If you made it just open in the summertime, you cut your cost probably close to in half.
I guess what my question is, from a legal perspective, what options do we have based on how the ballot language was worded? For example, the city couldn't build its own pool with those funds because it says that it will be the Canyon City Rec District's pool. So I guess that's what I'm asking. Like, can we build a different pool than what was envisioned based on the ballot language?
So it's really the rec district's ballot language that I think matters probably more, to answer your question. And I don't have that in front of me at the moment, so I'm going off of memory a little bit. But the debt question asks if the rec district can incur debt up to a certain amount on certain terms. I'm not sure it actually references the pool design that was available at the time the question was put forth a year ago. I'd have to look at that, but I think as long as the pool is not costing more and the debt is not more and it's within the Tabor, you can, I don't want to speak for the rec district because they're the ones building it, but the pool design could be retracted, I guess is the word I'd use, to another pool so long as that debt doesn't go over what the voters approved.
Thank you. That's super helpful. And obviously, given that the deciding one would be on the rec district side of the house, and I know that their attorneys would also have to look at it if that idea was to be considered. Thank you, Mr. Colon, for raising it. And thanks, Catherine.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Schmischer.
I think this was great. I think I learned a lot tonight. I really appreciate folks taking the time to show up and to speak eloquently and passionately about a community that you love. So thank you. I personally would like to see a more informal, round the table conversation about this, about ideas, about concerns with our community. And I think not, maybe making the table back there a little bit bigger, but having folks whose businesses would be directly impacted as it's currently written. I would like to have that opportunity. I think that we could make sure that it's public. So the issue with that is that the owls don't pick up everything as well as the mic does. But I think that folks who really care could come. But I feel like there is a lot that has been said and a lot of ideas that have been put forward. But I also think that I think that there's a lot more conversation that could be had. And it sounds like our attorneys have a little bit more research that they need to do about what is even legally allowable. And given that could make a really significant difference and end up with an excise tax on a couple of the companies that are headquartered in city limits and not on companies that aren't, even though they're offering substantially similar products. I just think that we have a lot more information that we need, and I think that we need to have even though it's been 2 hours, I think that we need to have a longer conversation where we're all sitting around a table. So from my perspective, I would like to see that scheduled expeditiously. Given that we have a lot of deadlines and timelines coming up. And I also think that this ordinance, from my perspective, it has to be finalized and it has to be done before a November vote. So that would be my request. Thank you.
I do see Councilmember Tracy's hand up again.
Yeah, I just want to be sure that I'm not alone in thinking that we're sticking with the resolution that we already passed in terms of what that ballot issue language is going to be. Certainly there's lots more to discuss in regard to the ordinance, but if there are a significant number of people on council who think that we're going to go in some very different direction that would mean changing that ballot language, that's a problem, I would assume. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can't change ballot language at this point.
Yes. Any other comments from council, city administrator?
I guess I would like to hear from the rest of council regarding some of Councilmember Schmischer's comments about having an additional meeting and having further discussion.
So to be clear, at this time, there will be a ballot, a question put on the ballot.
Council has already approved that.
Yes, we did. And so that will be up or down. They'll vote yes or no.
It'll be the vote of the people, yes, sir.
And then, so in the interim, you're talking about what we were talking about, our discussions more on the
ordinance.
The ordinance.
Yes, the implementing ordinance, because the ballot language is, it's 4 sentences or 5 sentences long.
We don't have to rush anything, and it could depend on whether they vote the ballot issue in or not.
I think what we would like to see is council having some finalized language on this ordinance so that the people, when they're voting, they know what to expect.
Is that doable tonight, or what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting maybe I would want to check the key stakeholder schedules to make sure that it worked for them, but I'm suggesting on Monday, we have a, noon to 5 meeting around the back table, or whenever would actually work well that is also fairly expeditious so that we can continue to figure out what this should actually say. And I don't mind if I'm the only council member who would want to come.
No, I totally agree, but I am out of town until Tuesday, so if you do schedule that, I'd like to be there.
Like, I think whatever works for the people who need to be there is what I would, because, I'm sure that different people have different things going on in their lives, so, but, yeah. And then I just had one clarifying question. I think that the deadline for submitting to have things put on the ballot has not yet passed. However, given that the city has already submitted it, there is no option for changing what was submitted. Is that correct?
The ballot language has to be finalized and submitted this week, and we don't have any additional public meetings that would allow us to change that ballot language and then also have it translated into Spanish within that time frame, which is a state requirement.
I think that we can schedule another public meeting this week because we only have to give 24 hours notice. But, I just think that and I feel like I've been saying this ad nauseum, so apologies. I just feel like we don't have enough information. And to hear this evening that our lawyers aren't even sure that the information that they gave us at the last meeting is accurate, because that's the basis on which we voted for the resolution, is really, really, really troubling. So I'm happy to stay here until midnight, or until whenever, but I think we need to get this right. Thanks.
Yeah, and I believe that the deadline for the county, because they're not open on Friday, is actually tomorrow. So we would not have an opportunity to schedule that meeting with 24 hours notice.
So we could continue the meeting this evening because this was a publicly scheduled meeting. And it seems like most of the key stakeholders are probably here.
I would ask our attorney to weigh in on that.
You're asking whether you can continue the meeting this evening? Is that the question?
For the purpose of changing the ballot language?
For the
purpose of changing the ballot language? No, that's not on your agenda.
For the purpose of having full information and understanding about the impact that this ballot would have, what is and is not legally permissible to be covered by the excise tax. So, so that we are actually making decisions based on all of the information. Because I feel like we still don't have all of the information. And your initial points, Attorney Salaries, you mentioned that we don't know whether or not more than probably half of the impacted businesses, whether or not it would actually apply to them. So I just think, like, we are having a meeting now. I would like to get all of the information that we need. If there is a deadline coming up of tomorrow, then I think that tonight is the time when we can get that information. Thanks.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I don't know if
please, Emily.
I'm pretty sure I'm hearing the attorney say that we cannot vote on new resolution language tonight because our meeting was not noticed that way. So the resolution that we passed in August, which spells out the ballot language, is what is going to be on the ballot. Whatever further discussion that we want to have, need to have, will be in relationship to the ordinance, but the ballot language is set.
And I would add one thing, what I believe I heard our attorney say, and please jump in and correct me if I go off the rails here, Catherine, but I believe what our attorney has told us is that there's some more research that they need to do, that there are questions they are not prepared tonight to answer.
That is correct. we want to make sure that the city is on sure legal footing in regard to that issue. And after the discussion at the last meeting, we wanted to look further into that. And so I'm not going to give an off the cuff legal opinion based upon the research where it is right now.
That's for the ordinance.
That's for the ordinance.
So you could have the ordinance done prior to November 4th.
Probably.
Yes. Is it okay?
Yes, just fill out a form and give it to Denise when you're done.
I'll do it. Thank you. This is all a little chaotic. But I was at the meeting where that resolution was passed. My name's Sean Rogers. I'm a member of the Recreation District Board. And I think I share Councilwoman Schmischer's concern with the lack of legal clarity around it was the context for which all of the support came from when that resolution was passed. I was in the room. So it's very concerning, beyond being a member of the Rec District Board, that there is, I watched council that night and I saw that no one wanted to basically pick winners and losers when it came to specifically the raft companies that were going to be affected. And it was comforting that everyone would be captured in the excise tax because everyone takes out at Pink House. But when the idea was brought that there was definitely legal standing, that if those companies operated within city limits, within the district, that they could be, and that's what everybody voted upon. That's what everybody, I was here. And so to say at this point that I don't want to offer legal, kind of like informal legal advice or something where research is still ongoing, I mean, too late is my response. As a member of the Rec District Board, the idea, the substance of the idea was based upon that legal advice. So in my mind, as a citizen of Canyon City, that's wildly irresponsible and too late. So as somebody that's kind of watched this evolve from the beginning, I just want to point that out, that, I can understand a lot of the frustration in the room. Business owners are not people that put everything at risk in order to pay taxes. So it's very understandable to me that some of the most virtuous business owners in our community don't want to pay taxes. Not a surprise. I think we're all customers of these businesses, and it's very understandable that they don't want to become a pass-through entity, even if it's to pay for something like a pool. What isn't understandable to me is that the legal counsel that was behind a resolution that was passed that's going to put something on the ballot wasn't solid. I mean, that for me, not good enough.
Thank you for that. I would just point out that there are two different undertakings here. One is the ballot language. One is the ordinance that will flesh out some of the details. And I agree that was our intent in the meeting, is to not pick winners and losers. We discussed that quite a lot. But nonetheless, now that we're down into the gritty details, we do need further legal advice on what those details mean.
Understood.
And so that's what's going on.
I think I understand. I think that my question would be to everybody in council, and you don't have to answer, but would you have voted differently if that legal advice would have been shaky at that moment? Because me being in the room, I would say it's very unlikely. It was fundamental. It was a foundation.
Thank you. Other questions, comments from council?
What we're dealing with right now is the ordinance, which is different. The ballot language is whether or not to have the tax. The ordinance is how that tax is going to be allocated. That's what we're discussing. And if Catherine needs more time to get more information on that, then, you know, we're just going to have to do that and see what happens to see, you know, maybe, I don't know. We have no idea how that will come down if there's a reason that we cannot tax certain of these entities. And I think we need to find out. That's why we have legal representation. But the ballot language that's not in question. That was just whether we have the tax or not. So there's no confusion over that, but it's the confusion tonight is over, you know, how this tax will be allocated. And I think we have time, since it's an ordinance, that we can proceed with that and have, you know, a meeting later on about that.
Further comments? Yes.
I guess I disagree just a little bit, because I think that when we had the conversation at the meeting with the ballot language, I asked questions about the ordinance and was told that that was not the time.
The ordinance.
Yes, because those questions on the ordinance and who specifically would be taxed, who specifically was eligible to be taxed, was very central to my decision. It was necessary information to have in order to vote on whether or not to put this issue on the ballot.
So that's what we're working on right now, is that how it's going to be allocated in this ordinance.
That's why we're all
Okay, do I have other comments from council? I think that my understanding of where we are is that because of some of the questions that have been raised past our finalizing the ballot language, and the questions that we had, and appropriately so, that we are still waiting for some answers on those, and I think that we need those answers to make good decisions. And so I think that we have to give our attorneys a chance to weigh in with whatever other advice they have to give us, is what it seems like to me.
John?
Yes.
Attorney Sellers, could I ask, do you have an estimated time frame? I know that you guys are working on many things for many communities. Do you have a sense of when we might get that information?
You're on mute.
Sorry, hopefully by Monday. That's our goal, no later.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think that perhaps to summarize where we are is that we're floundering a little bit in how to not pick winners and losers, and not to disadvantage a certain segments of a business community. And I think that we need some input from the attorneys. And I think that after that, we need to get together expeditiously to, as Councilmember Schmischer suggests, to further discuss the details. Any further comments from council?
No, that'd be fine with me. The ask of the people is still going on the ballot. So, yeah, I think we're at that point that we should better define, or at least have a discussion like we've had this evening with everybody around on an ordinance, the ordinance. I think that's where we're at. Amy?
Yes, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. With that, I think that we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.